Manny G, welcome back, man.
Thank you, thank you.
How long has it been since our last interview?
Oh gosh, that was a couple months ago, I'd say. Yeah. It
was right after.
Right after, yeah. So it was somewhere after June, July, after that first competition that I have. Yeah, yeah.
When in that competition you placed.
First in my first in True Novice and first in my open class. Yeah.
Cool. And what have you been up to since then?
Since then, I have competed one more time.
Okay.
This one was in Florida, actually, on November 20th, so the weekend right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I took third in my class in that one. A little stiffer competition over there.
Stiffer?
Yeah, a little tougher.
And where was your last competition? Was it?
It was in Salt Lake. The first one was in Salt Lake, and this last one was in Florida, Fort Lauderdale.
What made you transition from like doing a show in Salt Lake when was that? In June? In June. And then, 4 months later? I mean, 4 months, that's almost an off season, right? I mean, you had to go out of prep and then back into a prep, real quick, right?
Yeah, there wasn't really an off season, per se, because that was more of a mini break is what I like to call it, because I think I only had like two and a half months, maybe tops, I think it was, and then I went right back into prep and then got to this show. So I didn't really have an off season. And what made me want to go that direction was just tougher competition, or at least I wanted to see what it was like in a different area, different state. Not saying that Idaho or Utah is bad,
This is different.
They're great, yeah, it's different. I just, somewhere when you start traveling, it's a local show for somebody.
For sure.
And that's what I said on that first interview that we did, is that I gotta go. I want to see what I can stand up, and this one was against the Southern guys, or the Southern people.
So what when you say it's different, what do you mean, or stiffer? Like what did you notice that was different between somebody, this Western side, right, where most of anybody watching this is going to understand what's different between here versus on the east side?
So this particular show was a Pro-Am, which is an NPC IFBB. So this was a pro show and an NPC show, all in one. So when I say stiffer or different, just the caliber of athletes. Not saying that Idaho or Utah or this side of the.
But these are you just did an amateur show.
Yeah, I did an amateur show, but I was around, a lot of these guys that are they're competing right now this weekend at nationals.
Yeah.
That's the kind of people that were around this show, and just being around that kind of atmosphere, those kind of people. I'm like, okay, I know what I need to do to,
That's got to be, well, first of all, it probably humbled you a little bit, you know, I mean, taking first in a
right off
class right off the bat, and I've always said it's like buying your first lottery ticket and scratching it and winning, right? It becomes, this is easy. Making your first sports bet and you win, right? This is super easy. I can do this. And then all of a sudden you get to these other, and you're like, okay, this wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be, right? But sometimes there's a disadvantage to coming out on a true novice side and placing first in the first show you've done.
Right.
And so I think that's a great idea for you to go over there, do a Pro-Am. Now, are there Pro-Ams here? Are there Pro-Ams maybe in Utah or Vegas?
I'm sure Vegas for sure. I think I've heard about it. My teammate happened to, he's a pro, and so therefore, we did it together.
Cool.
Obviously I did it on the amateur side and he did it on the pro side. So not only was it a humbling experience, it was a great experience to be around the pros or see the pros.
No doubt.
I saw them with my own eyes, of just the caliber of athlete, to step on those stages.
Now, did that intimidate you, or were you like, I can get there? What was different?
That was more of a motivator.
Yeah, it was good.
Just based on, a little intimidating to the sense of wow, these guys are another level. This is a whole nother ball game. But that just fueled me because my other teammate that was there. There was three of us. He placed top 5 in that. In the pro.
Who's
in
your
the pro
teammate?
ranks. His name was his name is Steve.
Okay.
I can never say his last name, but yeah, he plays top 5.
Good for him. That's awesome.
And my other teammate Travis, we went together. So again, humbling experience, but it was like a motivating experience just to be around that kind of level of competitors.
Right.
You know.
Right. I can see, I could see where, excuse me, where it would turn a lot of people away if they were to see what they go through. I mean, you're obviously not seeing their prep or their lifestyle,
right.
But you get in there and they're these massive but small human beings, right? Huge chests and shoulders and these small waists or whatever, and it's either going to ignite that fire even more or it's going to put it out, and it seemed to kind of put you in a better direction on where you need to be and where you're going right now.
Back to the drawing board.
Yeah, but so to me, me not knowing anything really in the bodybuilding world, a 4-month break sounds awful. Like, to me, that sounds like almost the time frame exactly what you wouldn't do, because you would get off from a show and then there's your off season is, people call it an off season, but you're still grinding, right? You're still putting in extra calories. You're still bulking. You're still trying to build to get that cut down and have more muscle mass. So when you say you take a 2-month break, I mean, was that hard? Am I right saying that a 4-month break is generally not a good idea between shows, or is that enough time for you to manipulate some stuff before you go back on stage?
Right. No, so you're right. Like 4 months wasn't long enough. I mean, it's not long enough.
Yeah.
I mean, again, like an off season, typically should be anywhere from 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
And then you pick the show based on, how your body is looking and reacting to things. But the reason I did that is so there were some family members that did not make it to my Salt Lake City show, and I originally wanted to do the Idaho Cup.
Yeah.
Which was
there in Boise
2 weeks prior. So I had reached out to my coach and I was like, hey, I want to do this one because there's some family members that were local that didn't catch it, and he's like, okay, well, I mean, obviously he's gonna give his advice about what I should do, but ultimately it's my decision.
Yeah.
And he's gonna back behind it. This prep it was a lot harder mentally than the last one. So
why?
I think it was more just I was getting more in my own head because of my own expectation of, because I did so well right off the get-go.
No doubt.
That, I'm like, okay, now I got to hold this standard for myself, and if not, I'm going to disappoint, whomever.
Yeah.
And then just everything else that, life will throw at you, I mean, it was like getting into the holiday season and so on and so forth. And so that one was harder for me mentally. So being that is, and stress can ruin the body drastically. I wasn't going, it wasn't progressing the way that I know that I can be, or that I should have. So therefore I'm like, I'm not feeling comfortable with doing it, but
Did you have thoughts of backing out?
A little bit, but I'm like, at the same time I was like, I'm already in.
Yeah.
I'm not deterring now. So
yeah,
I was like, I had conversations with my teammate that was doing it with me, and he's like, just push it back 2 weeks and do that show in Florida with me. So that's how that ended up being that way, because I was like, I'm already in prep, like I'm not coming out. Like I'm
right.
doing this.
You're getting on stage and flexing for somebody somewhere.
Yes, I'm doing something. And so I mean and I ended up, I still did pretty well, but no. So going back to the original question, like now we're taking, at least until the summer off.
Okay.
For an actual improvement season.
Did you look better in this show? Your thoughts? The first one or the Florida show?
The Florida show. I did gain in that 2-month break though. I did gain 10 pounds.
Wow.
Between
good for you.
Like from stage weight.
That's quick.
It was 160, in Salt Lake. I was 170 in Florida.
That's insane. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it does probably make you think, well, man, what if I had a year? What if I,
and that's kind of the drawing board now, is like, because they like my structure, there's just, now it's just overall size now.
Yep.
That's what's
what are you doing?
Men's physique still.
And you're still trying to gain size for them? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, to the pro levels, man, these guys are
pro levels.
monsters.
It's crazy. They really are. And you would think in NPC, I've noticed the pros in men's physique would beat a lot of the bodybuilders in NPC size-wise. I've noticed. Like, I mean, they're big boys.
Yeah, they are.
Like, they're really big.
That's why, I mean, like I said, it was a humbling experience, but also, like, I was like, wow. Like, when I was there, because I saw it with my own eyes. I saw these pros, you know, because I've been to a national show to watch, and now I've seen the pros. And these guys, you know, these top 5 that I saw, you know, I'm like, wow, you know. And one of them, you know, being my teammate, you know, he's only probably like 2 inches taller than I am, maybe, and he was like 205.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know, so
that's crazy. Well, there's a lot of people. Do you consider yourself like a hard gainer? Do you consider yourself like somebody that struggles gaining weight, or do you struggle keeping weight off? If you're in your off season, you're not working out, you're not doing anything at all.
I'm more of the it's easier to put on the size or to gain the weight, but it's a pain in the rear end to get it all off, to get rid of, you know, that excess fat.
So if you were just an average Joe, you would have more of a gut than you would be super skinny.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Gotcha.
100%.
You sound like you say yes 100% like you've done this before.
Yeah, it was before. I mean, because that's what I was before.
I've seen some before pictures.
Before I even discovered, you know, this lifestyle, that's what it was. I was just, you know, I would have always loved the gym, sure. Yeah. But like, I had thought like I was more of like the skinny fat is what I like to call it.
Yeah,
you know,
I can
smaller arms, smaller everything, but then you got a little gut, you know, and so it wasn't until, you know, getting into this that it's wow. I thought I was, you know, healthy then, or I thought, you know, I looked good then, and I'm like, look back at those pictures, and I'm like, well, you know,
but that's your own standard, right?
Yeah,
you're your own worst critic.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
a lot of people would dream to have your before pictures, right? The before, you know, it's everyone's own standard and everyone's own thoughts. And you came in here, you moved back to Twin. Gosh, dang, it was what, 4 or 5 years ago? 4 years ago.
Late 19.
Okay, yeah, 3 years ago. Because you worked here for a minute. You worked here for a minute, and Shane Rock was the one who said, "Hey, I got this guy coming out of Boise." Or were you?
I was I was in Georgia. I was coming back from
Georgia.
Yeah, I was transitioning back this
Boise,
way.
Georgia.
Yeah, same thing.
You were coming. This guy coming out of Georgia. He really likes, you know, he's really into the gym life, and you know, carries himself well-spoken guy. Was that you saying, I'm going to do these shows by that point, or from late 19 on, did you say, I'm going to start doing shows? At what point did you start getting into the lifting lifestyle and wanting to compete?
In 18 is when I like fell and like finally found out like, okay, I need a coach. Just somebody out there knows something more than you do. And I clearly didn't know what I was doing. So that's when I had reached out to, you know, had previous coach then, and we had worked together. And I had wanted to do shows, but, you know, military got in the way with certain things and whatever. It wasn't until I got here that I was able to get more of a stable routine as far as, you know, work, life, kids, everything, where it could finally mesh, and that I was like, okay, once I put into this, like, there's no turning back.
Right.
You know, but at my first show, you know, there's always obstacles somehow, some way, you know, whether it's life situations or, you know, school, whatever the case may be. And, you know, my mom, kudos to her, like, 1,000 times, like, there's not enough gifts that I could buy or enough thank yous I could say to, you know, remotely, you know, pay back or do, you know, how she made my life easy, you know, because when it was my turn to have the kids, she's like, okay, I'll take them, you know, you go do your training, do what you need to do, you know, I got them, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, it is huge, you know, and you know, from previous conversations with Luigi, you know, he gives all praise to his wife, you know, Kara, to her husband and stuff like that. I mean, just having somebody that you can count on makes it 100 times easier.
Yep. Yeah, they might as well be on stage with you, you know, because they've put in the same amount of work, you know, typically as you have. And I've noticed it so much more, too, is is somebody needs that, you know, their mom or their spouse or something to step up to that level of understanding to allow you to do that. Because the many conversations I have with people in your sport is, you know, frankly, it's the most selfish sport I think that exists. I mean, it's about your time. It's about your food. It's about your sleep. It's about your gym time. You know, it's about your rest. It's everything. You have to, and there's a way, and it has the least amount of compromise, right? I mean, you can't say, okay, I'll go to my nephew's birthday party. I'll have one slice of pizza and one piece of cake. Like, no, you won't.
No,
not if you're 4 weeks out. No, you're not.
No, exactly.
You know, and I even have. I have a friend whose sister-in-law was dating a guy around here that was kind of in prep, and they were having a family barbecue, and this guy brought his own Tupperware food, prep food, to this barbecue, and it rubbed this family wrong so bad. They essentially stopped dating because of it. They thought he was super selfish. Wow. They thought it was very impolite because he was not eating there. He went to a family barbecue and brought his own food, right? They saw that as a big insult. But as a family coming from not recognizing what this guy's doing, right? It's not an insult. It's a self-discipline thing, and he didn't want to be rude and not go to this family barbecue.
Right.
But to the world, that's a very selfish human being because of that. And it's hard for a lot of people to understand. So again, you're right. Kudos to your mom for understanding that kind of stuff.
Within that story, I mean, that's my family gets together every Sunday. They're very big on like keeping the family together, keeping the family tight and everything. Ever since my grandma passed away, and I mean, I'll get the bickers all the time from my uncles and stuff, like, because I bring my lunch bag with me.
I can imagine, because the Mexican culture is they as families,
I mean, and we don't have,
and it's based around food and carbs.
Yeah, we don't have a reason to get together. Like, there's just like somebody's birthday.
Wednesday.
Somebody's birthday. All right, we're all getting together. Holidays is just an extended reason to get together. Like, absolutely. For us, especially because our family is really big. From the day before Christmas Eve, so like the 23rd until like January 2nd, we're on like everybody's celebrating, and I'm over here bringing my food with me everywhere I go, and unless it's that designed, when coach says, hey, have your day, like enjoy the food with the fam, whatever. So Thanksgiving, so I'm fresh off this show, right? Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, and you smoked some stuffing and deviled eggs.
Coach is like, hey, have a good time.
Did you eat pie?
Oh, 7 slices worth of pie. My uncles.
So you're telling me that's where the 10 pounds came from?
That's probably where it came from. Yeah, no. So they were. I was just going to town that. Like, I was enjoying myself. I mean. Yeah. And they were just, after the third one, they were like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'll have."
Well, they're not used to that.
I said, "I'll have abs tomorrow morning. Don't worry."
Like, yeah. Wait till you see how full I am tomorrow. That's
great. But yes, very, very selfish. It's a very, very selfish sport.
And the word selfish is bad. I mean,
no, it is.
But in this weird incident, it's not. It's not. It's just the sport. It's the level of dedication you have to the sport to be where you want to be with it. When you bring your food and stuff, I'm sure people will start asking you questions. Do you like talking about your prep or what you're doing? Or when you do that, I'm sure there's a lot of people, not, in your family, but not in your family, that says, well, what about this? I've been trying to lose weight. How do I do this? And, all of a sudden you start to get bombarded with questions because you brought your own chicken.
Yeah.
Do you like talking about that, or does that kind of get to where you're like, just let me do my thing?
At first I used to like love it, and now not so much anymore, because I mean, it's a constant occurrence.
I bet.
Just random questions, like, or what kind of veggies are you eating, like that kind of stuff. And I'm like, every that answer could be so broad, because it could be so different. Certain things make like certain people like gassy or bloated or whatever, based on what it is, as simple as broccoli. You could say, yeah, eat chicken and broccoli, but that might not work well with your system.
For sure.
Like, yeah, chicken, sure, but like the veggie part itself, is it broccoli? Is it green beans? Is it spinach? Which one? Is it?
Figure it out.
Like I can't tell you like what's gonna work for you, because what works for me is not gonna work for you.
Yeah.
Like I know so far, some certain foods that work well with me and certain ones that don't. But
you had to find that out, right? I mean,
yeah,
you had
it's
to
trial
eat
and error. Yeah, it's learning. And so, I mean, when you get hit with these questions all the time, it's just like, oh, or what do I got to do to get big and then get cut? And I'm like, well, you can't do both at the same time, Like, I mean, there's only that 1% that's genetically gifted that can do that, But the rest of us, like, you're gonna have some fluff.
Those questions are always loaded, and they don't understand that. It's not a black and white answer. No, hardly anything. How do I lose weight? How do I gain size? How do I reduce stress? Anything that they're talking about to get where they want to be, it's all loaded. Because then that question, if you want to answer it, has to be turned around, and you have to now ask them 15 questions, right, to understand their lifestyle and what's working for you to properly answer that question.
Right.
That's why, trust me, I get it. When somebody comes up to you and says, well, how do I do this and this? And you're like, either you decide to take the time and turn around and ask them questions, say, hey, that's a loaded question, answer these ones and I can help you, or you're just like, pecans and broccli.
Right. Yeah.
Okay?
No, I mean, yeah.
All right.
There's so many variables, like you were just saying. There's so many variables. Do you sit at work? Are you active at work? Like,
are you working graveyards or days?
Yeah.
Or how big's your family?
Yeah.
Or
what's the average amount of sleep that you get? Like, do you have any allergies to anything? Like, there's so many things that you just. At first I used to like enjoy it, but there's only like a select few that reach out to me that if I've known them for a little bit, and they're kind of just needing that little boost, then I'll give a couple suggestions here and there, but the overall population, or the ones that do hit my DMs or Facebook messages and stuff, I'm like, I don't have time for this. Like, I don't.
Yeah, and that's not a rude thing.
No,
I don't think, but literally you don't have time for it, because it's not just a quick DM back to answer the question. It's going to be, to properly answer the question, typically is going to take some time and have some conversation.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't do a cookie cutter plan for everybody.
Right.
I mean, there's
V-shred.
You could, you could do that, but then I'm not benefiting them. This whole thing about why I do what I do is for my kids. This whole thing is for me for sure, but for them to look at Dad and say, he's doing something that he loves to do, so can I. And then 2 is to keep myself, relatively, healthy, just overall, as far as knowing things, knowing foods, knowing, what things do that make my body make the changes that it needs to. For myself, I do this, for me and for my kids. Everything else is just kind of a bonus or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but there's just too many variables if I
right.
to help anybody.
No, there is. There is, and I hope people understand that. I'm sure you welcome the messages and everything.
No, I do.
But they can't. It's not rude that you're not answering the question that they want if it's a loaded question. It's, shoot your shot, ask Manny the questions, or ask whoever the questions. But sometimes they're too loaded for for you to give a proper response without sitting down for 20 minutes with them. So what's next? You did the show in Florida a month ago, and you said you're going to take some time off till at least summer. So are you looking at a show?
Probably late fall next year. So mine, I'm not in a rush to get to the national stage. I know so many people that do.
Were you though? Were you until Florida?
No, even then. I think just one of the things that I've always listened to is certain people that I look up in. I mean, they're open bodybuilding. It's not. But I'd listen to their podcasts or some of their YouTube clips about how they got to where they were at. And for me, I kind of take that same approach. Was you got to learn to crawl before you walk, and then walk before you run.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I'm already nationally qualified because of Salt Lake, But I can guarantee you, like what I saw in July, because I was in Arizona supporting a good friend of mine that was doing nationals over there, and when I saw that competition, if you can legitimately look at the top 5 and say, I can hang with those guys, then sure, go for it. If not,
you're wasting your
just gonna
time.
get humbled really quickly.
Correct. Yeah,
And
just
I don't
because
wanna
you're
take that
nationally
approach.
qualified. Yeah, and I've seen some people get smoked doing those national qualifiers after their shows, and yeah, I can't. I think that's really hard for you to do, though. I mean, you know, you're an amateur of any kind, right? And then you're take any sport. I always like to take golf, for example. But you say you're an amateur, and then all of a sudden you qualify for this professional tournament, but you're shooting 3 over every round, and these guys are shooting 7 under. What are you doing? You know, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should go ahead and go embarrass yourself. So I think you're right. I think that's awesome that you're like, no. Give me some time.
My next step was whatever show that it is that I decide to pick, whatever that one is I'm winning that one.
Yeah. Good.
That I've already put it out there in the universe. It's happening.
Whether it's 6 months from now or 3 years from now,
the next show that I said do, I'm winning, and then after that, you know, then probably nationals. But
cool.
I'm not in a rush to do it because it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, because a lot of these are, you know, I mean, the closest one for us is what, Vegas?
Yeah.
At closest.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise you're going to Florida, you're going to Pittsburgh, you're going somewhere. So, you know, and then for us, you know, because we're in Idaho, we got, you know, we're traveling, and you got airfare, and you got to look at, you know,
hotels and all that.
Flying 4 days or 5 days earlier. You know.
And what some people don't know is that, I mean, you're $100+ for every single time you enter an event, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so you're $100 and some bucks, then you're $100 and some bucks for your NPC card annually. You're, you know, I mean, to do these shows, I mean, then you're $100 for your suits, you know, your tans. I mean,
it's comes with it. Yeah,
it's thousands by the end of it.
This wasn't even a national show, and it was a good, you know, like, you know, because we were up there 4 days previously.
So doing a show isn't just like, oh, I feel good, I look good, let's go enter a show.
Oh no, you got to plan, like, almost like I'm a planner, so I mean, you almost got to like almost not to the T, but pretty dang close.
Well, I think we're all looking forward to, you know, seeing your journey, and I'm certain this is not going to be the last time we have you in here and kind of following you, and I think you're gaining some good attention, which is really good, and you know, with that comes a lot of good, and with that comes a lot of, you know, I hope you get haters from these, you know, because we're doing something right.
I was just talking to this, but I do have, you know, why do you post about yourself so much? Why is your shirt always off? And, you know, we already know what you look like. No, you know, that's part of, besides doing it for myself and my kids, is to be able to inspire somebody else somewhere. Maybe not to step on stage, but it's just like, maybe I should do something, you know, don't even have to do it health related. It's just the fact that, hey, you know what? He's chasing something that he loves to do. Yes. I should probably do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And in order to get there, you will have to deal with the couch critics all the time. Yeah. And so good. You're getting them. You're doing something right. Right?
Coming. Yeah, they said that if you don't have at least 1 or 2 hitting you, that means you're not doing it right.
Exactly.
So I'll take it.
Exactly.
We'll take it the way it is.
Well, that's awesome. Well, good for you. Well, I appreciate you coming back.
They can, you know, anybody can message me. Cool. On Instagram, Facebook. It's all Manny Gomez 3.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we'll see you in a few months then.
All right.
Okay. Thanks, Manny.
Yeah.